I want you to picture this. It's the middle of January, and depending upon where you are, it's cold outside. And all of a sudden, you have a student athlete that knocks on your office door or your walks into the living room, and they say, "Man, this is getting to be a real heavy burden." You know, I deal with burnout all year long, and most parents do not associate the winter workout season with burnout. But I'm going to suggest to you today 3 or 4 ways that you can keep things enlightened and obviously room at the end of the tunnel so that your athlete is staying motivated during that time of the year when there's not a lot of games, obviously, not a lot of practices. As someone that's been doing this for over 40 years, I often find myself talking to parents of 12 to like 18-year-olds. And they're always talking about tournaments and events that go all the way into November and even sometimes, believe it or not, December. And then obviously things will start happening around Martin Luther King weekend. And all of a sudden, it's the baseball season. Has there been some time off? Has there been any kind of disengagement to allow the brain and the body to rest, recover, and replenish? Well, I'm going to offer you a few tips today that you as a family can begin to monitor to make sure that your student athlete is really focused on having fun and becoming the best version of themselves that they possibly can. The biggest factor, I get questions each and every week, and a lot of that has to do with, should I attend this event? Should we play this level of travel? Should we try out for this team? Very few people are focused in on the winter or off-season workouts. And here's a couple of tips that I think really need to be held firmly, and don't vary from this because it's very, very important. Now, obviously, if your student athlete plays a winter sport, i.e., hockey, possibly basketball, could be indoor soccer, anything that is indoors or off season, great. It's good to get a brain fresh. And we're going to kick things off on the first kind of topic that I discuss with parents that I'm working with. And that is, make sure you're mandating a day off. Whether it's over the holiday season when things can kind of get tight, the scheduling, so forth, but make sure there's a day or two where you're just basically taking off. There's no training, there's no balls, there's no hitting lessons, there's no practices, there's just a day off. This is a must. And it's good to keep a journal or tabs of that. It really encourages your athlete just to kind of get away and not worry about it. One of the things that's the biggest falsehood in youth sports today is that, oh, the kids in the Dominican don't do that. Yes, they do. All kids are kids, period. End of story. We need to be more cognizant of that. And we don't need to listen to adults who have a false business narrative. Now, that doesn't apply to everyone, but for those that kind of want to instill on this grind, you got to be grinding. There's no such thing at 12 through, say, 16 or 17. As your student athlete begins to get into that 17, 18, 19, approaching college, okay, that's something we can talk about. But make sure you're kind of scheduling a day off, a couple of days off, especially as we approach the holiday season. Next, I really want to encourage you to kind of make sure there's an ebb and a flow to the workouts. Not every day has to be stressful and has to be max effort or max energy. There has to be kind of an ebb and a flow, where you're doing things and allowing them to train on their schedule, making sure they have days that are really strenuous mixed with days that are a little bit lighter. And always, always, always stress to your athlete the importance of sleep, proper sleep, just as much as we talk about study habits, workout habits, those types of routines. We often hear routine and development. We don't hear enough about sleep routine or sleep pattern. I think that's something that's really, really important. Next, really encourage your athlete to understand that you're trying to allow them to become the best version of themselves, not what someone else's opinion is of your student athlete. Oftentimes, I'll get athletes when I'm doing evaluations where parents are, well, he plays shortstop and there's another young man in town or in the area that's a little bit better. And we're trying to, you don't have to keep up with anyone. This isn't a race to a finish line. The destination is coming with or without baseball, meaning the end of high school and the beginning of those young adult college years are coming with or without baseball. So be very, very cognizant of this isn't a race to a certain finish line. What you're trying to do is present a polished, finished, best version of an athlete when they get to the age of 18. Recognize there are going to be physical limitations, there are going to be athletic limitations. Those things are okay. They're not obstacles, they're not hurdles, they're simply goals. Think of them that way. Don't think, well, my son doesn't run a 7-1. Okay, what are you doing each and every day to get towards that? Make sure rest is a part of that, but obviously you're trying to allow them to become the best version of who they're capable of becoming. So don't fall into that trap of this travel ball team does things better than that travel ball team, and this travel ball team has more of an emphasis with the high school coaches. All of that is really oftentimes misunderstood and oftentimes not factual. So I really would encourage you to make sure that you're aware of what direction your student athlete is really taking. The final piece to this puzzle, do a fun check. I promise you, if you just start at the age of 12 and 13 and you say, hey, listen, Tyler, I just want to ask you, having fun? Oh man, I love this. If I go to work out and I run into Kurt Schilling or Kevin Euclid, it's fun. I used to ask those questions a lot and more for my own sanity because I used to try to figure out, am I pushing too hard? Am I not pushing enough? And during the months, particularly November, December, January, as you're leading into those spring training months where college baseball is emerging in February, Major League Baseball is beginning spring training. That's kind of the time where there's an awakening next year for the baseball season. Don't try to crush and kind of cram everything into November, December, and January, trying to be Superman. Think of the eating, think of the strength, think of the speed, the stretching, the speed work, and sleep. Those things are critical. And are they all fitting into school? Does your student athlete enjoy getting up and going to school? Now, I get the vast majority of young students, school is kind of a chore to some. They don't really look forward to going into school. But really, these are the days that we as parents will look back on when they're engaged with their friends, they're engaged with certain events that are significant and meaningful to the school, to the faculty, to the student body, and so forth. Do not get consumed during the months of November, December, and January with what awaits you in the spring of next season. Try to make sure that every day during November, December, and January, make sure there's a scheduled day off or two. It's okay. Make sure it's not max effort or grinding 7 days a week, every single month for 3 months. Allow them to, most importantly, have some fun during the downtime, have some, days with the guys or days with the friends and hang out, sleepovers, do all those things. I hope this finds you well, and I hope you really take the time to continue to send your questions in because I really, really enjoy helping parents, helping athletes, something that I enjoy doing, particularly during this time of year. Subscribe, please. Continue to share the channel, build the community, help me build the community so that we together can spread information that is meaningful and helpful to student athletes all across the country. Thank you very much.